الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. We begin with Allah's blessed name, we praise Him and we glorify Him as He ought to be praised and glorified. And we pray for peace and for blessings on all His noble messengers, including the last of them all, the blessed Prophet Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, as we greet you from beautiful Jember with the birds chirping on this, the 26th day of the month of Zil-Hajjah, with Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is Jember number 5, the 5th talk, but the 4th one on the subject of Islamic eschatology and Israel's attack on Iran. And today's talk is very important for looking ahead to see how will Israel behave in the future. We are not in the world of imagination. We recognize that only Allah knows the future. But Allah has given us a capacity to think, and He has given us guidance and information in the Quran to use when thinking. And that is how the branch of knowledge of Islamic eschatology came into being as an independent branch of knowledge. Before Islamic eschatology was established by Allah's kindness and grace as an independent branch of knowledge, what did we have? All the students who have studied Islam will tell you what we had before was that we would study signs of the last day as a part of the study of Hadith. What we did not have was an integrated system of knowledge which recognized the primary function of the Quran as absolute truth, which recognized that the Quran has to be studied the way we study the stars, which recognized that the Quran is non-contradictory. No verse of the Quran can contradict another verse, which recognized that it was the function of the Quran to sit in judgment over Hadith. And if a Hadith was in harmony with the Quran, we accepted it. Now listen carefully. But if a Hadith was in conflict with the Quran, then the Quran had to sit in judgment over that Hadith. And even if the Hadith was in Sahih Bukhari or Sahih Muslim, since the Hadith was in conflict with the Quran, we had to reject that Hadith. That is one of the reasons why they are shutting the doors of the masjid on me. Because from my teacher, may Allah have mercy on his soul, Maulana Dr. Muhammad Fadlur Rahman Ansari Rahimahullah, I learned this methodology for study of the Quran and assessment of the Hadith. And by Allah's kindness and grace, I was blessed to use this methodology to bring the branch of knowledge of Islamic eschatology into being for the first time as an independent branch of knowledge. And now we proceed with our subject. What we have said so far is that what we anticipated 25 years ago in our book, Jerusalem in the Quran, is now taking place. We said that Pax Britannica and Pax Americana came into being to prepare the way for Pax Judaica. I was always of the view that the transfer from Pax Britannica to Pax Americana required 2 world wars. And I consistently held the view that the transfer from Pax Americana to Pax Judaica is not possible without the Great War, Armageddon, or the Malhama. I now hold the view that Pax Judaica has emerged, but that hardly anyone will accept this view that Pax Judaica has emerged. I confidently predict that there will be no political scientist who will agree with me. I confidently predict that there will be no Islamic scholar who will agree with me. And so I say that it is when the Great War takes place that it will no longer be possible to deny that Pax Judaica has emerged. Those who differ with my view are free to have their different views. I have no shortage of critics, and I say to them, there is no need for boxing gloves on the subject. If you are not impressed with my scholarship, why don't you simply leave me and go your way? Who appointed you to have a PhD in sniping? Tomorrow the world will know who is truth, who is correct on this subject, me or my critics. We have said that what has happened so far is evidence not only that Pax Judaica has now arrived, but that Israel will now show behavior consistent with a holy state of Israel, or a Khilafah state, or a ruling state. We told you yesterday, and we repeated it 3 times, the primary characteristic of a holy state, a ruling state, a Khilafah state, is that it submits to no authority other than Allah. A Khilafah state will not submit to the authority of the United Nations organization. A Khilafah state will not submit to the authority of the Security Council of the United Nations. A Khilafah state will not submit to the authority of international law. The world cannot impose rules on a Khilafah state controlling its behavior. I am teaching this subject so that the leadership of Russia in particular, but also China, will understand the subject. This subject is so easy for Indonesia to understand. No Indonesian has any problem in understanding this subject, but they will not understand it. So we have to explain it. This is why Israel is refusing to submit to the authority of the United Nations. Israel is rejecting the authority of the Security Council of the United Nations. Israel is rejecting the authority of international law. Israel refuses to accept any rules prepared by others that could control Israel's behavior. And this is why Israel and her allies, the Judeo-Christian Alliance, have functioned in the past to eliminate all rivals to Israel. All the states in the region in which Israel is located, which had a profile of resisting Israel, had to be destroyed. And so Operation Desert Storm in the 1990s was designed to eliminate Saddam Hussein in Iraq as a rival. And then came the Arab Spring, and it was designed to eliminate Muammar Gaddafi and Libya as a rival. And then came the elimination of Assad in Syria, and the replacement of Assad's regime in Syria with a regime which cannot threaten Israel. It is now possible for us to see that this conduct has been consistent for so many years now. And any Arab state which raises its head to resist Israel will be destroyed. So all the governments in the Arab world are now in submission to Israel. They were throwing dust in our eyes, but we can see. I don't have the time to continue with the past. I want to go to the future. If Israel is going to continue to function as Pax Judaica, with, of course, the support of the United States and Britain, with the support of the Western world, how is Israel likely to behave in the future? My critics don't like it when I do this. They say only Allah knows the future. So we say to the critics, go to sleep, leave us alone. Let us now analyze what lies ahead. Number one, that the attack on Iran will continue until there is mission accomplished. The United States has now joined Iran in the attack, joined Israel in the attack on Iran. And that is not surprising. The United States is attacking the nuclear installations which are beyond the reach of Israel. And so we differ with this view and now being expressed that the primary reason for the attack on Iran is not the nuclear plants. The primary reason is regime change. We differ with you. We say all the evidence, and there is sufficient evidence, that the primary reason for the attack on Iran was because Iran posed a threat, nuclear threat to Israel. And Israel will not stop its attacks until Israel is confident that Iran cannot become a nuclear power now or in the near future. But there is a nuclear plant in Iran which was built by Russia. And Israel has informed Russia we will not attack that plant. And Iran has also announced that since the Americans have attacked Iran, dropping bombs on the plants which are underground and in the mountain, there is no evidence that the nuclear plants underground and in the mountains have been damaged. So Trump has said, we will come back again. We do not anticipate any country attempting to stop Britain, stop United States, and stop Israel. So our first observation is that this war is going to continue until Israel is satisfied. Our second observation is that if attacks from the air with bombs cannot succeed, in destroying the nuclear plants underground and in the mountains, then Israel and the United States will have to launch a ground operation. They call it boots on the ground. I am not a military scientist, but I can confidently predict that if there is a military invasion of Iran by Israel and NATO, in order to ensure that the nuclear plants underground and in the mountains are destroyed, then they will remain in that operation until the return of the Messiah. There will be no escape. The United States cannot withdraw. And when Nabi Isa alayhi salam, Jesus, returns, they will say, we have killed those in the sky. We have killed those who are on earth. Now let's kill those who are in the sky. This is the response to the threat posed by Iran. Can Israel function as Pax Judaica when Pakistan is a nuclear power? Pakistan knows that Pakistan is next on the list. And the United States set a trap for the Pakistani armed forces. It was a skillfully designed trap. And because the Pakistani leadership does not have basar, and they do not have integrity, the Pakistanis walked into the trap. And now the Pakistanis are looking foolish. The trap was that the Israeli Mossad committed the act of terrorism in Kashmir. This is now my view. And they did the act of terrorism in Kashmir to provoke war between India and Pakistan. And they did this to try to probe Pakistan's response and to compromise Pakistan's capacity to come to the help of Iran when Iran is attacked. We got the news that the Indian Air Force was specific in attacking Pakistan's air defense capacities. It's called radar, and it's called anti-missile defenses. And it appears that these were destroyed. So Pakistan was effectively eliminated in offering help to Iran, to alert Iran that attack is coming. But what I did not know was that as the trap developed, Trump claimed that he intervened and stopped the war. And I believe that Trump is correct. And when Trump succeeded in stopping the war, India objected, no, he didn't do it, no, he didn't do it. And it was all a part of the trap. The Pakistani government and armed forces fell for the trap. And they nominated Trump for the Nobel Prize for Peace, using their strategy of countering India. And then Trump provided the icing on the cake. He invited the Pakistani armed forces chief, come and have lunch with me. And because these pathetic people have no insight and no integrity, the Pakistani chief of staff of the armed forces accepted the invitation. And he went to the White House White House and he had lunch with Trump. And while he and his government and his armed forces generals were celebrating, Trump took mud and he threw it in their faces. The very next day after the Pakistani armed forces chief was having lunch with Trump and proposing his name for the Nobel Peace Prize, Trump launched the attack on Iran. The Pakistanis are looking very foolish. But that's not all for Pakistan. United States and Britain and the West and Israel know that the Pakistani people hate Israel. They know that the Pakistani people would like to fight Israel. The Pakistani government may not have integrity. The Pakistani armed forces may not have integrity, but the Pakistani people have integrity. And they are resolute in their opposition to Israel. And since Pakistan is a nuclear power, this is a threat to Israel. So we can confidently anticipate that Israel will attack Pakistan. I don't know when the attack will take place, but I know that it will take place, despite all the theatrics of the Pakistan armed forces. I call them Yankee puppy dogs. Now then, we can now also confirm that Pax Judaica will have a strategic ally in India. Not all Hindus support Israel. There are Hindus in India who have integrity and they oppose oppression, but they are becoming smaller and smaller in numbers. And the tide in India is turning against them. This is not a fake statement. This is a valid statement. This is truth. That Modi's India is becoming a second Israel. And therefore that India will be a strategic ally of Israel. And the plans are probably already being made for India to join with Israel in attacking Pakistan. And the purpose of the attack on Pakistan will be the same as Iran, to denuclearize Pakistan. But that will not be enough for Israel to function as Pax Judaica. Israel still has to deal with Korea. Israel still has to deal with China. And Israel will still have to deal with Russia. And therefore, it is not difficult for us to anticipate that the Israeli Mossad will provoke the Great War. And the function of the Great War would be to eliminate Korea and China and Russia as rivals to Israel. That in the Great War there will be mutually assured destruction. That not only Russia and China and Korea will be destroyed, but the West will also be destroyed. This is Israeli thinking. But Islamic eschatology says something else. And we're going to leave that for tomorrow. Any questions? For tomorrow, inshallah. We do not know what tomorrow holds in store. Bismillah.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nurul Hidayat. I have two simple questions. The first one is, when we discussing about Khilafah, we are dealing with system theory. What I'm wondering is how Khilafah in the future will looks like, because it is quite hard to imagine in the secular world like today, imagining all the people submitting totally only for Allah, because we are obviously integrated with administratives. Simply how the system of Khilafah in the future will look like technically. Does any countries committed in one constitution, or they are just living on their own countries but submission in the level of the heart?
Okay. The question is, tell us what the coming Khilafah state will look like.
Yeah.
And we cannot deal with that subject now. We'll deal with it in a future lecture, inshallah. Yeah. Next question.
Jadi
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Yang saya hormati Syekh, nama saya Jalal dari Jember. Sangat luar biasa, 4 hari ini saya menerima kajian dari Syekh Imron. Luar biasa, karena ini datangnya Syekh dari Jember, keluarnya 4 hari dari Jember. News bagi saya, berita news. Khususnya tafsiran Syekh adalah sudah saatnya Pax Judaica sudah bergerak dan muncul. Artinya Dajjal sudah, Khuruj Dajjal sudah mau muncul. Artinya waktu sesuai dengan apa yang dihadiskan oleh Nabi, 1 hari sama dengan 1 minggu. Apakah demikian yang akan terjadi? Dan khusus perang Israel-Iran yang tadi disampaikan, bagaimana posisi Afghanistan dengan Talibannya? Terima kasih.
The question is, since I have said that this is now the emergence of Pax Judaica, and since our Prophet, Allah's blessings be upon him, has said about the 3rd part of the shadow, the 3rd part of Dajjal, that it'll be a day which is like a week. How long will Pax Judaica last? Answer. About 30, 40 years ago, while I was in New York, I began to do this mathematics, but I quickly abandoned it. And for the last 30 years, I've never returned to the mathematics. But many of my students spend long time with the mathematics. And I keep on getting emails.
hal itu.
Pax Judaica is going to last for 25 years. Pax Britannica began on that date. I leave it to them. I am not involved in that anymore. All that I can say is that with comparison with each other, the first stage of the shadow of Pax Britannica lasted for a long time. So long that it appeared it will never end. Winston Churchill believed it will last forever. Then came a year which is like a month. And Pax Americana replaced Pax Britannica. And Pax Americana is already showing signs to be in decline. Not even Trump can make America great again. The sun is setting on Pax Americana. And Pax Americana never lasted as long as Pax Britannica. And so the only answer we can give to the question is that Pax Judaica will last an even shorter period of time than Pax Americana. The timeline of events of Akhirul Zaman was given by Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam when he said to his companion Muaz ibn Jabal radiyallahu ta'ala anhu that the first event would be Jerusalem coming to center stage in the world. The second would be Medina in forlorn desolation, indicating that the Judeo-Christian alliance will be ascendant, and the Ummah of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam will play no role in the world affairs. The next event after that would be the Great War, the Malhama, or Armageddon. The next event after that will witness the Ummah of Muhammad ﷺ rising again, that a Muslim army will conquer Constantinople. And he praised the commander and he praised the army. And the next event after that is the Khuruj of Dajjal. Dajjal, the shadow, will disappear. And Dajjal, the person, will now appear. This is the timeline of events. All right, enough for today because the sun is already hot.
Yeah.
Until tomorrow, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.